What's up YouTube, Capital G here, checking out the third and final archetype coming out in Hidden Summoners. This is the Mayakashi series, and it's a zombie base. It's also Link and Synchro base. A lot of zombie archetypes out there are actually Synchro base, or they have the ability to Synchro base because it seems like Unizombie ends up in all of them, let alone Plague Spreader zombies. And I've always just felt like zombies have had the affinity for Synchro summoning ever since Plague Spreader was a thing. This archetype is probably my least favorite of the three coming out in Hidden Summoners. It's not that it doesn't have any good cards. I just honestly feel like this archetype kind of lacks direction and really a fundamentally solid win condition. I feel like the foundation of this archetype is not very strong. I think there's 7 cards so far that have been revealed. 2 of them are excellent, and then the others I'm just like blah 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 blah, not really impressive, etc etc. But we'll go ahead and we'll still talk about it, and maybe you guys can teach me some things about it, because you know that there is the Undead World structure that coming out soon, so maybe that'll be a boost, and maybe you could use some of those cards in this deck. So the first card is beautiful Mayakashi Daki. This is a level 2 fire zombie tuner monster. Alright, if you're going to have a zombie synchro archetype, you're going to need a tuner. You can't rely on Plague Spreader forever, so I'm fine with that. 1000 attack and 0 defense. Konami going back to their roots with the 0 defense zombies. I can dig it. First effect is you can only control one beautiful Mayakashi Daki. There's this weird Bujin thing going on with this archetype where a lot of these monsters, you can only control one copy of them. It kind of makes sense with this card, but with some of the other monsters, like, I really think it was unnecessary. The second effect is why you can only control one copy of this card. It says when a Mayakashi monster is special summoned from the extra deck to your side of the field, while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you activate this effect, except Mayakashi monsters. So basically, if you happen to summon, and there is a Link monster in this deck, spoiler alert, I already said that, right? If you happen to summon the Link monster while this chick is in the graveyard, then boom, you can actually like special summon her from the grave. I think that Konami didn't want you special summoning 2 or 3 copies of her from the graveyard, but even then, like, how are you really gonna like Link spam? You can only special summon Mayakashi monsters for the rest of the turn anyways, so Link spamming, it's not like you would have been able to make any crazy nightmare plays. I feel like the whole you can only control one copy of this card was really unnecessary, because the second effect of this card special summoning itself from the graveyard is not a hard once per turn. So as you continue to make Mayakashi synchros and Link monsters, you would be able to just summon this card, I guess, infinitely, as long as you can keep summoning those monsters from the extra deck. The next one is Rickshaw Mayakashi Shafu. It's a level 3 Earth zombie monster, 1200 attack and 400 defense. Looks like this guy's first effect is a hard once per turn. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one Mayakashi monster in your graveyard, except Rickshaw. Special summon that monster in defense position, but its effects are negated. Effect number 2, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Mayakashi monsters. So the second effect is something that does not activate. As soon as you drop this card on the board, it's just something that is applied. And I wonder if that's actually a condition, because that would mean that even if you, like, if this card was on the field and its effect was negated, you still might not be able to actually, you know, special summon monsters that aren't Mayakashi monsters. I'm fine with this. There is a Link 2 in this archetype. This basically gets you your Link 2 instantly, and generally monsters like this, kind of like the Wolfbark Blizzard, I would compare this a little more closer to Blizzard, because Wolfbark can activate every single turn. I mean, this is a pretty good card for going into like links. I mean, basically it's a 1-card Link 2. Before I talk about the links, there's actually the best monster in the archetype, I think, so far, and I want to talk about that. This is Winged Mayakashi Hajun. This is a level 1. It's a wind zombie monster. Let's see, 600 attack, 400 defense. The first effect is the hard once per turn. It says if this card is normal or special summon, you can special summon one Mayakashi monster from your deck, except another copy of Hajun. This is excellent. I mean, yes, it is susceptible to Ash Blossom, but being able to get to any monster straight from your deck, like, this is the starter card that you always want to have going first, because the last card, the Rickshaw, I mean, yes, it's good, but it does rely on your graveyard. This one doesn't rely on your graveyard at all, so it's always going to be live turn 1, and the monster that you special summon from your deck can still activate its effect, so that's pretty good. The second effect is the same kind of clause as Rickshaw, where you cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck except Mayakashi monsters. See, this is why I think these restrictions are not necessary. Like, this deck, so far, it seems like it's not going to be able to special summon any of the other kind of generic good monsters in the game. Like, I don't know if you can turn this into an Omega Dot deck, because all of these freaking monsters have the restriction where you can only special summon Mayakashi monsters. So I don't really see you splashing in that many engines. Maybe Mizuki, because Mizuki always works with zombies, but in general, I mean, I think it might be a little difficult to, you know, turn this into like some type of splashable engine or something like that. Next, we have their Synchro monster, which at this point in time, without there being another Synchro in the archetype revealed, I think that this card actually makes 0 sense. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think that I am. This is beautiful Mayakashi Yoko. It's a level 9 fire zombie Synchro monster, 2900 attack, 2400 defense. Stat line is perfectly fine. It is generic. It just requires 1 tuner plus 1 plus non-tuner monsters to summon, so that's fine. Second and third effects are hard once per turn. The first effect is kind of that Bujin effect. You can only control one beautiful Mayakashi Yoko. Second effect is if a Synchro monster you control whose original level is 11, this is such a fucking weird effect, is destroyed by battle or by your opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one other zombie monster from your graveyard, special summon this card. So, okay, I'm gonna go to the third effect before I break that down. Third effect is if this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can destroy one monster your opponent controls. I think the third effect is fine. Obviously, the third effect can activate off the second effect, but the third effect also activates off Monster Reborn or Call of the Haunted or Book of Life or anything like that. Like, the third effect is perfectly fine. The second effect is so fucking weird. So I have to have this card in the graveyard, and then I have to have a zombie monster, or excuse me, a Synchro monster whose original level was 11, and it has to die by a card effect or by battle while this card is in the graveyard. Then it special summons itself out. Like, what? First off, there is no level 11 in this archetype so far, so that's out the window. Second, when I think of all the level 11s in Yu-Gi-Oh history, the only one that I can ever think of that saw any significant meta play was what, Star Eater, right? So I just don't understand how Konami expects you to summon this guy first, it goes to the graveyard, then you summon a level 11 after that. Like, what? This archetype only has a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3 monster. How the fuck are you summoning this level 9 first off, let alone being able to summon a level 11 Synchro after that? I think as of right now, this effect actually makes 0 sense, but I could be wrong. Maybe there's another level 11 like right around the corner, which would change my mind, but at this point we don't know about that card. So right now I'm looking at this card and I'm just like, I don't think you make sense at all. The Link monster is Icicle Mayakashi Yokiona? Okay, it's Japanese, so I'm gonna butcher some of these names. It's a Link to Water Zombie, a 1900 attack, bottom left, bottom right. It just requires 2 Mayakashi monsters, which that's pretty easy because there are 2 monsters so far we've already talked about that special summon either from the graveyard or from the deck. So 2 Mayakashi monsters is easy. Third effect is the hard once per turn. First effect, you can only control 1 Icicle Mayakashi, so it's like the Bujin effect again. Only control 1 of this Link monster. Effect number 2, if this card points to a Synchro monster, your opponent cannot target this card for an attack. Okay, that was kind of my first reaction, was like, okay, I guess that's okay. Third effect, while this card is in a monster zone, if a Synchro monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field, have that monster's attack and defense until the end of this turn. This is another effect that I just don't get. Like, so you're expecting me to summon the Link monster, then have a Synchro monster on the field, and then when that monster is destroyed, then all I basically get is just kind of a shrink. Like, what? Like, I get a quick effect shrink, I guess. Like, when is shrink good in Yu-Gi-Oh? Shrink is a card that is way past its prime. I mean, I look at that and I'm just like, I really don't see how that's really that good, honestly. And this is why I say it feels like this archetype doesn't really have like a solid win condition. I don't really understand how you're supposed to use the Link monster to your great benefit. It just feels mediocre in my opinion. The next card could actually end up being their best card in the archetype. It's their only spell. It's Mayakashi Mandate. Normal spell card. It's a hard once per turn. It says take 1 Mayakashi card from your deck except another copy of Mandate. Either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. So don't need to spend a lot of time on this. This is basically a 3-of because it is either a Fool's Burial or it is a reinforcements of the army for the archetype. And it doesn't just add, like, it doesn't just add monsters. You can actually add the trap card that I'm about to talk about. So obviously this will make the deck more consistent. And it's a card card that you're gonna max out on 3 of because it gets you to whatever, you know, Mayakashi card that you want. The final card is Mayakashi Metamorphosis. It's a normal trap that is a hard once per turn and probably doesn't need to be. It also says you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck during the turn in which you activate this effect, except Mayakashi monsters. Holy shit, they built that into everything in this damn deck. It says discard 1 card, then target one of your Mayakashi monsters in your graveyard or banished. Special summon it, and if you do, it cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects this turn. I feel like there was a good idea behind this card because at first I was like, well, this is just a shittier version of Call of the Haunted, and you know, zombie decks can already run Book of Life, and there's Oasis of the Dragon Souls, Back to the Front, etc., etc. Basically, it is kind of that card. If you summon the Synchro, it'll get to pop something. It does require that discard, and you do get a little bit of protection. You get protection from targeting. My problem is, why is the protection from targeting only until the end of the turn? Like, seriously, Konami, it's like they fucking wanted this deck to be underpowered. Why wouldn't they just make the targeting protection permanent? In all honesty, I would rather run something like Call of the Haunted or Back to the Front because those cards don't require a discard. I understand that zombies do want to probably discard something like Mizuki, but really, I just don't see that big of an advantage of this over like Back to the Front. Yes, it is searchable from mandates. I'll definitely give you that. And it can get you a monster back from your banish pile, but this deck only has one way so far of actually banishing its monsters, and that's with the Synchro Yoko, which has to activate from the graveyard, so you have to summon it in the first place, and that effect is hard as hell to pull off because you have to make a level 11 Synchro monster on the field after you summon Yoko to begin with, and Yoko has to, it's way too convoluted and too much bullshit. There's way too many hoops to jump through, so you're really not going to be banishing monsters that much based on the cards that we've seen so far. As of right now, honestly, I feel like this archetype is a hot mess. I feel like Mandate is awesome, and the other one, the Hajun, is pretty good too. Like, those cards are kind of like A cards, but everything else in this archetype, it just doesn't feel like it works together, and I can't really figure out what the win condition of this deck is, because I don't really think you're going to drop the level 9 all that much, and then when you do, how are you going to summon a level 11 after that? Anyways, I could be completely wrong about this archetype, but right now, not looking forward to it. So, whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos. And actually, before anybody says, Kev, not all archetypes have to be competitive, I get that, but the other 2 archetypes, the Nethys and the Prank Kids, at least we could kind of understand how they work. I don't even get how this deck actually even works. Like, I don't even really understand what the win con of this deck is as of right now.